Hi guys, welcome back to Queen's Mindset. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. Oh my gosh, I am so excited to dive into it. Guys, guess who I have with me tonight? Tonight I have Shaniqua Forde, and she is going to be telling her story as part of the 12-part series of talking about battered, bruised, not broken. So before I go any further, if you have not done it already, go right ahead right now. Remember to hit that subscribe button just right below. Remember to subscribe, tag a friend that someone see this video, and like as well, and comment, because we are looking to hear your comments as well. So let's get right into it. Shaniqua, welcome back. Welcome back. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me.
Good. So I know everybody's like sitting on the edge, I want to know, I'm wondering what is her story? What is her story? So tell us about Shaniqua. Who is Shaniqua?
Okay, so I am 35 years old. I almost was about to say 34, sorry, but I am 35 and I will consider myself a loving person, a giving person, a determined person. What do? I'm a wife, someone's husband. That is right
That's
there.
important.
Yes. And I am the founder of Shaniquas Publishing and also Unearthing Her Ministries. And I am also an author.
Nice. You do quite a lot. So I
Yeah.
know you tell us about your book. How many books have you published so far?
For the company or me?
For you personally?
7.
Oh, nice, nice. There's one particular book that I have read, and I'm trying to remember. It's sad I forgot the name. I'm trying to remember the name. Is it Their Diary? Do I have it correct?
Diary of a Girl. Diary of a Girl.
Right. Check me and rename your book. Diary of a Girl. And in that book, as I read it, I didn't get to read the whole thing, but I got to read a lot. There were quite a lot of things that I learned about you through that book. But wow, I didn't know. You see people you would have never thought that these are the things you have been through, Wow, wow, wow. So walk me through, the feeling of rejection because in your book, you talk about your mom giving you up at 3 months old, and then your dad, he didn't step in and step up and play the role in the initial stages. So tell us about that feeling, how you felt when, in terms of feeling rejected by your parents.
Well, to be honest, because my grandmother raised me. I'm not sure why with the circumstances, but my grandmother from my mother's side, she raised me from the time I was about 6 months. So I wouldn't say that I had any feelings, obviously, when I was young, because I didn't know anything.
Right.
But going up after I reached a certain age to realize that this is my grandmother, and my mother comes around at times because she was back and forth. So sometimes she lived with us, sometimes she didn't.
Okay.
And then my father was not around either because after some time, he went overseas to live. And even when he would come back, it was just like a strange relationship. So on both of my parents' side, we never had conversations per se. Like even if you are not living with your parents, where you will have conversation, even if he was living overseas, it wasn't anything like that. So for me, when I came to the age of understanding that they had left, quote unquote, I guess it was a lot to take in. And because I come from a family and we don't talk much. So there's not much feelings expressed. We don't do well with emotions. So I was never raised with no hugs, no kisses. I knew I was loved, but I was never raised with that. I was never raised to talk about my emotions. So for me, I dealt with the rejection by bottling it all up inside. And it was hard to know that they would have left, but I think especially knowing that they had other children as well after me, and then they would have had them. So that was tough. That was tough.
So you were the firstborn for both of them?
No, I was the second born on both sides.
Oh, the second born on both sides. Okay, but you were the only one that they would have given to your to the grandparent.
Well, actually, no. My first sister from my mother's side, her father raised her. My first sister from my father's side, my father was not there either at that point in time.
Okay.
And yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow. So, okay. So only when you got older, of course, naturally, when you start to understand certain things, and then that's when you started to feel, rejected and so on, like you would have just explained. So how did this affect your school life, or did it even affect your school life at all?
In all honesty, it was kind of weird because the rejection brought forth insecurity, but I was good at masking. So no one would have known that I had insecurities and other things. So for me at school, I was the tough person. I was basically a bully at school.
Wow.
So, and I'm not bully in the sense of being like taking away people's money and stuff like that. Everybody just knew me, and I would do something like, if it is somebody that I know, then I would fight for them, or stand up for other people, but still a bully in a sense, because everybody followed me. Right. So but everybody followed me. So I would think I would say that it affected me in that way, because I was more aggressive technically. So I was just up there. But honestly, I am a reserved and a shy person, so that was not me basically. But I would just be aggressive and out there.
Wow. So there you were angry, but you didn't know where the anger was coming from, or you didn't quite, associate that the anger was coming from a deeper place than just you, trying to look out for your other friends from them being unfair or anything like that.
Yes. I had a lot of issues with anger. Yep.
Yeah. And how long did that phase go for you in terms of masking everything? Because I can only imagine it must have been so much work in trying to pretend like everything was okay, but then behind closed doors, especially at night time, that's when it's like you had mentioned in your book, that's when the demons really come out and you're like, oh my God, what is this? It's hard to really face it. Walk me through that experience.
I would say when I'm basically is when I started to unmask and unfold things, and I'm still unfolding things actually, because if you were raised for one way, and you have adapted for 35 years, then it's hard to break. But it is possible, but it will take time to reconstruct and to transform. So I would say that I'm still continuing to unmask, but I started to unmask when I became a Christian. Because before I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know that I had issues. I didn't know that I was, even though I felt bad, and I knew but I didn't know what it was. I didn't, because I was not in tune with my feelings, quote unquote, as I said, didn't talk about our feelings, our emotions. Yeah.
So did you lost your self-worth? Would you say that occurred in terms of, because I'm just thinking, going through all of those different things and then having to be around peers and stuff. Sometimes when anger kicks in and you start to feel like, oh, I don't care, anything can happen to me. Did you feel that way?
I had a low self-worth in terms of, I didn't think I was good enough, but it wasn't that I would go and allow anybody to do anything or what's not, but it was that nobody knew about it actually, because I was a girl at school. Nobody knew that I was feeling how I was feeling, but for me, it was that I was not always good enough. I didn't think I was pretty enough. Something was always too small. Something was always too big. My nose was too big. My eyes were too small.
Wow.
Other things were going on in terms of how I felt about myself. So for instance, like especially when I left school and I didn't leave with any CSC, and I always would cower down, like when I go into a room with people, thinking that I'm not good enough to speak, etc. So I will always be more reserved than in the background. Yeah.
Wow. And in your book, you also mentioned that they came apart, and I thought this was interesting, when your dad came back into your life now, and, you got that opportunity to actually go live with him in Canada for, you said, just about 4 years or so. But while you were over there, that's when you started to self-harm yourself. Tell me about that.
Yeah. When I was in Canada, it was a bittersweet moment for me, because I just went for vacation.
Right.
And when I was there, because I understand, I would stand up for other people and I would not stand up for myself. So when my dad would have asked me to if I wanted to stay, and because I didn't want to disappoint him, I really wanted to go back home. I was glad for the time to be there, but I really wanted to go back home.
Yeah.
So because I never stood up for myself and I wanted to please him, and because I love pleasing people, and I said, okay, no problem. But I didn't really want to be there. I wanted to come back home and finish school and be with my friends and be with my family. So because of that, because me being there didn't mean that we still have a relationship. Because even though I was under the same roof as him, it wasn't that our relationship was any better, because it would be the same thing. My father is not a, you know, like that emotional type person or whatever. So it was the same way. And I guess like everything just started to explode, quote unquote. And I was feeling a lot emotionally. So I decided to start to self-harm by cutting.
Wow.
And it was not that I wanted to die, definitely not. It was me wanting a release. And that at that point in time, cutting would have a release, quote unquote, physically. So at the moment, it was like a temporary release. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And did your dad ever recognize that you were trying to harm yourself?
No. Because I would do it in places that nobody would be able to see. So I would not usually use my wrist or anything. So I would do it in areas where it would be hidden under my shirt, under my shorts. And then I would do it in places that I would have already attained scars.
So how long did the self-harming go on for?
About the duration that I was in Canada. So about 3 years or 2 years maybe.
So then what made you stop?
Honestly, I don't know. I just stopped.
Wow.
I guess the grace of God was on my life back then. I just stopped. Yeah.
Wow. So you talked about becoming a Christian and so on. So you became a Christian when you came back from your dad, spending time with your dad?
No.
Oh. Okay.
I became a Christian in 2009. That's 7 years later.
And what led you there?
Well, a man.
Oh, wow. Tell us.
Well, so I have recently broken up with I used to visit the church with a friend of mine. She was going there, and she would invite me for like programs and stuff like that, so I would go.
Yeah.
But it was because we would have broken up, and I was like an emotional wreck. It was bad. And I started to go to church more. Like, it took a math for me to find God, like, really. But I started to go to church more. And I remember, you know, me crying at church, like, really bad. And everybody probably thought I got the Holy Spirit. But it was just me just letting out all the emotions of that. And then we would be, I was serious, but I wasn't to the point where I think that I should have been at that point in time. But a bunch of friends were getting baptized, and they said, you know what, just let me go ahead. And I did, and I got baptized, and that was it. I don't think that I took Christ serious at that point in time, but it was just, I just knew I had to do it, and it was called and stuff like that, but I didn't take it as serious as I should have.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So how long before you were able to, you know, get into the rhythm of things and start to take it seriously? Because of course, like you said, you made a decision because other persons were doing it, and not necessarily because you were at that place where you were, you know, in a relationship with God, and you were like, yes, I really want to do this because I'm ready to give my life to Christ. So how long did it take for you to develop or grow or start to roll in walking as a Christian?
All right, let me correct that. I wanted to live for Christ.
Yeah.
I really wanted to, but it was just something, just one little thing there. I don't know what it was that I didn't take it as serious as I should have. But I started to take it serious. That was in 20, I think, about the next year.
Okay.
In 2010, the next year.
The next year. Oh,
yeah.
Okay, good. So in all of this that was happening, did you give any signs? Did your grandmother recognize anything, like, in terms of your behavior changes and so on, and everything that had happened before it led up to you giving your life to Christ, of course? Did she recognize anything? Or were
In
you
terms
just
of self-harming and stuff?
yeah, well, not self-harming, because you said that nobody knew about that part, but I mean, in terms of like different behavior changes and so on, with you being aggressive or with you acting different, or were you masking it that well that nobody was able to tell, okay, something might be up with her?
My family is quite an aggressive family, so all of us was aggressive. So,
Okay,
but
so
yeah, stubborn and aggressive. So I was just being myself. And they will all say, like, you always by yourself, you always got angry, like
yeah.
stuff like that. So yeah, they knew that I was angry. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so now we've given our lives to Christ, and then the year after that, we started walking, and walking the walk with Christ and so on. So when did your Boaz come along? And how did you meet your Boaz?
Okay, I met Gershon in 2019. In January, we were supposed to do a podcast together, but that didn't work out. So the third person we were supposed to do the podcast with, he would have introduced us. We had a meeting in January, and we had exchanged numbers, obviously, for business purposes. And we would just talk, and we were just friends, just platonic friends. And we would just send each other memes all the time. And then after that, on June the 1st, sometime in May, just realized that we started to have feelings for each other. And we officially got together on June the 1st. And we got engaged on August the 1st. And then we got married on December the 14th that year.
Wow. So how did you know he was the one? Because I mean, that space of time, to other persons outside, you're thinking the timelines was like quick. How did you know?
Well, first of all, God would have told me before that anything that, in terms of dating, it will not be long. It was always going to be quick. And God had also told me from prophecy after prophecy and dreams and stuff like that I was going to marry a pastor. So I knew that from 2013 that I was going to marry a pastor.
Wow.
Also, in terms of his character, his integrity, all of these things, things that God would have told me before. But in May, when I realized that I was liking him, I said, well, I'm not dealing with this again. I'm not going to invest in something and it's not a God thing and it's just a good thing. I was not going to do that again. Yeah. So I went to God when I realized that I was starting to have feelings with him, and I was like, God, like no, I can't do this without you. I'm not doing this without you. If this is not what you want for me, remove it. If this is what you want for me, well, I need you to tell me this specific thing at this specific, not specific time, but tell me this thing or let this thing happen. And by the end of the day, it did. So I was like, good. And it was just confirmation after confirmation. All the time God was just bringing to me. And I was honestly, I was at peace. I don't know if it's because of my childhood. I was always an unstable person. And I would like you today, and then the next day I would literally be like, okay. And I would be so unsure. And every person that I would have been with in the past, since I was a Christian, I would always have an uneasiness, and I would never ever be at peace. Like one day I would be okay, and the next day I would start to panic and have panic attacks and be like, what am I doing? Like this is not it. But with him, even though I looked back at it the other day, and I was like, I really shocked myself because I literally no worries. It was a peace that surpasses all understanding that I had, and it was just completely crazy to know the timeline that people have got married or anything. Everything I had no worries at all. So it was just, for me, it was just that peace that God would have given me to know that this is where he was leading me.
Wow. So how was the reaction from your family? Did they support that? Did they have comments about your decision? Because obviously, some people don't tend to understand, where you make those types of decisions based on the fact that God had guided you to such. How was their reaction when you made that decision?
Honestly, they were good. My friends and my family were extremely supportive because I would I would have talked to somebody else before, and they were like, they were not interested in the person. But with him, immediately there, everybody was just like, yeah, like. And so when I said, when I told my friends, they weren't like, you crazy, or when I told my family, it was like, you crazy. It was just like, congratulations, happy for you that you've been dealing with this for so long. So everybody around me from my circle felt comfortable. Yeah.
Wow. That is good. That's a really good story. Okay. So I know, so what would lead you then to writing your books? I know you have your books because you have 7 of them that you've published. So, but the particular one I'm referring to is make sure I have this right.
Diary of a Girl.
Diary of a Girl, right?
Yeah.
So that one, what led you to? Because that was your first book, right?
Yeah.
Right. What led you to write that first book?
Honestly, it was a man again. I remember I was talking to this guy.
Yeah.
And I came home one day because he had done some stupidness, honestly. And I came home after that day, and I just laid on my bed, and I started to talk to God, and I was like, God, why am I here again? Like, I thought that I got over this thing with somebody else. So why am I here again? Why am I here struggling with this sad thing again? And I started to write, and I was like, okay. And then it continued, and that's how that book started. But beforehand, I started to hashtag Diary of a Girl on my social media, because I will always do things on social media for women and singles and stuff like that. Yeah. And I would hashtag Diary of a Girl, not knowing that it would be a book, honestly. And then from the time I started writing, God was like, Diary of a Girl. And I was like, oh, okay.
Wow, that's good. That is really good. Okay, so how is your relationship now with your father and mother?
Well, to be honest, with my mother, we talk now. We obviously have WhatsApp and stuff like that, so we will conversate and stuff like that. It's more open. Now she would say, "I love you," I would say it back and stuff like that. With my father, it was never an issue in terms of my father saying "I love you" or anything. Honestly,
right.
My father was the honest person in my life that, even though I didn't see him much, but whenever he would kiss me and say, I love you, or kiss me. But my relationship with my dad, I had to come, because sometimes we think that when we talk about our feelings or stuff like that with people, that it would change them. But I came to realize, and honestly, only it was 2020 or 2019, one of the two. I think it was 2019. I came to realize that my father is how he is, and until he changes, I cannot change him. So I can't frustrate myself or annoy myself with how he is responding to me. So I would not hear my father for a long time, and before it would upset me, because I'm like, you can call your daughter, you can call your children, you can do whatever. But I realized that, one, it was not just me he was doing it with, and two, we always, well, I wish I would have known it now. I mean back then, but I don't know. But for me, it was like, our parents or whoever, well, mostly our parents, only do what they know. So in terms of how they raised me, or how they responded to me, or what they gave me or what they didn't give me, it was all they knew how to do.
Right.
And they had to understand that they themselves had things going on, whatever issues it would have been. Not to make an excuse that you shouldn't be a proper parent, but I don't know what they would have been through in terms of my father, like my grandfather, in terms of my dad thinks that, believe that if he doesn't have things to give us, then he shouldn't really be in our lives, quote unquote. So when he would give me anything, but in terms of that bonding one-on-one is hard for him, because my grandfather never did it. My grandfather was all playing this way and that way, and mostly my grandmother had him, So for him, it was all he knew how to do. And because I cannot change that, I had to come to grips with that and say, you know what? I am okay. So I will message once in a while, or he will message me once in a while, and we will talk, but that's it. And it's not because I don't want to, but it's because until he changes, then it will be different.
Oh. So did he ever apologize, for not being as consistently in your life as he should have from the time you were born?
Well, as I said, in 2019, I would have opened up to him about certain things.
Right.
Because when I realized that he was doing these sad things to my younger siblings, I said, well, you know what, we don't want a cycle or what's not. And I told him how I would have felt, whatever. And he apologized and he said, no problem. He didn't do different, but he said he apologized. He said, no problem.
Right. And what about your mom? Did she apologize as well?
No. Honestly, we haven't had that deep discussion as yet. So yeah, no.
Yeah. Okay. So what about your siblings? Do you have good relationships with them too as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
That's good.
My siblings from my dad's side, they are not here. They live in Canada. Okay. But we live. Yeah.
Talking everything. And did they read your book?
My siblings, I think most of them did. Yeah.
And
your dad did. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And your dad and mom as well?
I believe so. Because yeah.
Yeah, they read it. Okay. Did they tell you anything after reading it or anything like that?
No.
Or they no?
No.
I was expecting to hear that, they had something to say about it. Okay.
No.
So, wow. So now you're writing these books and something, because obviously there's something you're passionate about and something God has laid on your heart. So tell us about how your book has impacted, well, not only this book, but other books that you have written have impacted others. Because I know you talked about your ministry that you started and so on. So how has that been for you?
Well, I get messages a lot about how people are impacted by the books.
Yes.
It was hard for me, especially to write the first book, because there were certain things that I thought that people would view me in terms of a bad light when I talk about fornication and stuff like that. Dealing with two people at the same time in church, things like that. And I thought that people would see me and think dirty of me. Yeah. And God was like, no, this is what I told you to do. Just do it. Run on your back and do it. Yeah. And when it was out there, I realized the impact that it had on people. People would call me and be like, oh my God, like I've been through this, and they would start conversations. Up to last month, or 2 months ago, I had a person who would have read my second book, and she was messaging me. And she was just telling me how much it impacted her life. Yeah. So I believe that, I know that they do impact people in different ways. Yeah,
that's good. So tell me a little bit about your ministry, because there may be someone who's watching right now and who may want to be a part of that. So tell me about your ministry.
Okay, so ministry is called Unearthing Her. We recently changed the name in 2020 to Unearthing Her, and we are focused on, we call it a mustard seed. I would have taken a look at the mustard seed, and we know that the mustard seed is extremely small. Yeah. The Bible talks about having faith like a mustard seed. Yeah. But the mustard seed has the potential to grow huge. So our focus is to help women holistically move from a mustard seed to a mustard tree. And to grow, and not just spiritually, but in all areas. So we do seminars and workshops, conferences. Right now we are focusing on 2 women at a time to help them in terms of emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially, to help them to move from one place in their lives to get to a better place, and then we can just let it play.
Wow, I love that. Yeah. Okay. You mentioned something earlier too. I didn't think that was a part that was in your book that I didn't bring up earlier, where you talked about, feeling the shame, the guilt and embarrassed and so on, to have to tell your story, to talk about the fact about fornication and stuff. So tell us a little bit about that and how that actually happened for you.
Which part?
well, just about how fornication. Okay, so we talked about the fact that okay, it was fornication. You said there was someone, well, more than
Oh,
one
okay.
person in the church and so on. So tell us about that story. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So remember, I would have told you that I came into church because of gay.
Yes.
When we have broken up, right?
Right.
So I was obviously still, we have been together for 4 years, and that was all I knew.
Right.
So I was still trying to quote unquote, but he came back into my life. I was just still in a vulnerable state. And I had also met somebody inside the church.
Right. Okay.
Right. So it was like over here and over here. And I allowed him back in my life at some point. And then I allowed the new person in my life, and I had ended up, at some point in time sleeping with both of them. And the continued quote unquote situationship.
Yeah.
Obviously my ex came around for like a little bit because he just wanted to use me. But I started to continue a situationship with the other guy who was in church.
Yeah.
But after that, that's when God was like, you gotta stop this. I have more for you than this. You need to stop. And also I found out that he had somebody else as well. But at first I was like, you know what, like I ain't going to marry, blah blah. But then God was like, I've called you for better. I've called you to do this, and you have to get your act together. And I would have ended it.
Okay. So I like that you share that story, because there's so many similar stories to yours that I have heard, and I'm sure our viewers have heard as well, of persons who are in church and that is occurring. And I always wanted to have a little bit more discussion as to why do we think, I don't know, maybe you may be able to help me with this, but why is it that is something that usually still takes? So first you go through the most churches will usually do, like, you probably do like a 6 week or a 4 week or some type of, training before you become baptized. I'm trying to remember the title that they usually call it, but you go through that process first before you become baptized. But then after that, you're baptized. And then some churches do the follow-up, but there are quite a few that do not do any follow-up, because yes, you're preparing to give your life to God, making sure you understand certain things, taking you through the walk, and what they call it, baptism classes and so on. But then after you've gotten baptized, that's when it hits. And if you were in a space before where you were doing similar things, just because you have now gotten baptized does not mean that is not, nothing of the sorts would ever reoccur again, because no, the enemy is going to be after you even more because he thinks that he has a point to prove. So I just wonder why we don't. Does your ministry look at anything like that, similar to that, to help those women who may have recently given their life to God, but they had a past, because everybody has a past, in terms of helping them or walking them through kind of like a mentorship program kind of thing, like, how they have like big brother programs where you have those persons there with you walking you through? Do you do something similar to that?
Well, we don't have what mentors. Like we're talking about discipleship, yes, we stand alongside people and help them. I speak a lot in terms of purity, because I know that is something that I would have struggled with beforehand, and I made a lot of mistakes. So I usually go out to youth groups and different things as well, and speak about purity. And you would have asked why it is happening, or why does it happen a lot? To be honest, I think that we think, and we have been told that when we come into Christianity, that everything, and like that's it, like you don't got no troubles no more, you can be good, and in Christ everything is going to be fine. And that is far true. So for me, when I came in and I accepted Christ and everything, and I realized that I was still struggling with these things, I was still doing these things. Honestly, that's where a lot of people go back outside church, because it's like, I made this mistake, so that means I am really safe. Or then we will go back up to the altar all the time, keep recommitting ourselves to God, when it's not that. It's that even though you come into Christ, like there are certain things that would have held you down, that you need to break off. You need deliverance, you need discipleship, you need all of these things. Because that in the past, I would have been in that all the time. So obviously those things would try to keep holding on to me. And it's just a constant transformation, just a constant, not that when you believe that you get to a place that you are not going to be tempted either, or you won't make mistakes either, because we all will do. But it's a lot of transformation. It's just a lot of pulling out and tearing out what we knew before, and then God just allowing God to just pour into us.
Yeah.
But discipleship has a lot to do with it. A lot of people don't have people, as you said, to walk alongside them. Yeah.
Okay. So we are coming close to the end, because I want to be respectful of your time. Because, if you had an opportunity, 2 more questions. If you had an opportunity to, look back at your younger self, what would you tell your younger self?
That's an interesting question. I guess I would have to say to be more open to your emotions, but I don't know what I would have, how I would have been able to understand at that point in time if I was surrounded by it. But that is one thing that I wish I can. We obviously know we can't go back and change it, but one of the things that I wish I could have done more is to be more emotional, because it has been something that I'm trying to work on, because all of these things can affect your marriage.
Yeah.
So it's something that I am constantly having to work on, to be more emotional, to be more affectionate, because I was literally not, like, I would be like, okay, like that type of person. Like, I would never, like, my friends would be like, you happy? Like, if I hear exciting news, I would be like, okay. Like, even though I will be happy, it's just like not the person to be like, oh, like, like that. So like my husband or my friends would be like you could like show that you have, you could. It's a process to be constantly working on. So I was to be more emotional, that it would benefit to be more emotional. Yeah.
Good. And what would you tell someone who may be going through a similar situation as you would have gone through? What would be your words of encouragement to them?
I would say that regardless of what you are going through, to 1, believe in yourself, 2, find someone that you can go to, and as you would have mentioned, discipleship. Find someone that you can go to, who you can talk to, who's not going to be judgmental, who's not going to be judgmental. In any way, who will correct you in love and all of this. But find someone, especially if you're a Christian, find someone who you can go to and be able to help you mentally, in different ways. If you are self-harming, find someone as well that you can talk to. It's hard. I know you don't want to talk to anybody, but find someone that you can talk to. Journal. As well. That helps in terms of writing out your thoughts, and just try until you find the help that you need for whatever you're going to. Try to surround yourself with, I would say, not positive people. Positive people, because who you surround yourself with helps. And determines the outcome as well, because I was surrounded at each step. I was surrounded with good people. I still have all of my old school friends and stuff like that. So I was always surrounded by good people, but I would say find people that you will be around, because negative company will only lead you further down destruction. So I will also say to find people who are positive people to be around. And also, life happens. We all come from different backgrounds. That's the truth. Like, nobody's life is perfect. Even if you were raised by your parent, even if you were in a home with 2 parents, there's always some issue there. So I would honestly say that no matter what happens in life, I think it was Charles Swindoll, somebody would have said, what life is 90%, 10% of what happens, and 90% in terms of how you respond to it. And I would say that even though bad things will happen, even though things will happen to try to tear you down, try your best to not allow it to crush you. But walk through it the best that you can possibly walk through it with whatever tools you have at the time until you can do better. But don't allow what happens around you to crush you, and to know that you are fearfully and wonderfully made as well.
Well said. So guys, you've heard it from Shaniqua. Tell us where to find your books, where we can look for you, where we can find your publishing company, where we can also find your ministry, because persons may want to go right ahead and, and start following and reaching out to be a part of what you're doing.
Okay, so you can find my books on Amazon.com. I don't have any physical copies right now, so you can find them on Amazon.com. The first set of books are written under Shaniqua L. Howell, and the second set of books are written under Shaniqua Howell Forde.
Right.
You can find Shelef Publishing is SHELEV Publishing, www.shelefpublishing.com. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook at Shelef Publishing. You can also find the ministry Unearthing Her, just Unearthing Her on Instagram, and you can find us on Facebook as Unearthing Her Ministries.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing, the level of transparency, because I know these are topics that, are very hard and for persons to already talk and share, but because you have shared, someone has been blessed and someone, some type of bondage has been broken, because now they know that they don't have to suffer in silence. So I'm very grateful for you sharing. And to you guys who are viewing, if anything that she said relates to you and you know that you need to get help, reach out and, go right ahead on Instagram. We have all of the names where you can access and reach out to Shaniqua and share what you may want to share with her so that you can get the help. Don't suffer in silence, or send me a message. Who knows, I may know someone else I can point you to who may be able to assist or help you so that you can be the best you can possibly be.
Forever, you're my reality. You're my sunshine. You're my best times. You're my anomaly. And I'd choose you in 100 lifetimes. I'd choose you in 100 worlds. I'd find you, and I'd say I do for the rest of my life. With all that I have, I do, and I will when the sky is falling. I promise you I'm all in, no turning back. And every day, every moment, every breath you take, I choose you. We'd say we do for the rest of our lives. With all that we have, we do, and we will when the sky turns black and he comes back riding on the clouds. Every day and every moment, every breath we take, we choose you.
So in this 12-part series, you'll hear stories about a single mother dealing with a quadruple amputee. You'll hear the stories of the journey to purity. You'll hear the stories about brokenness that led
to wholeness. You will hear the stories about facing imperfections. You'll hear the stories of how prison led to purpose. You will hear the stories about fertility issues and how that rendered them barren. You will hear the stories about domestic violence. You'll hear the stories of how a miscarriage saved a life. You'll hear the stories about dealing with insecurities and finding your identity. You'll hear the story of how a headache led to a coma. You'll hear the stories about a fatal accident that almost cost a daughter her life. You'll hear the stories about dealing with suicide and a tumor.
Once again, thanks for joining us, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Bye, guys.